And network has been for many of us, but on the flip side, it's also have become a liability. Because some folks have replaced church, replaced submission, and other terms that we'll talk about dealing with the wild gourds, and created a false vine, and created a false hope, a false outlook. You got prophets and fivefold ministry gifts on there, and some proven, some unproven. Those are wild vines.
And I think about too, when you said that when you think about, you can plant a wild vine over on your side of the fence, but yet it still grabs the whole of the fence and go over on the other side. It doesn't care nothing about the structure and order that you put there.
No
it's going to go outside.
No guidelines, no rules. But we'll get the gourds, because the gourds are actually what connected to the vine. That's where the gourds came from. And so those are fruits that are manifested in our lives that are negative to us. We want the true vine. And that true vine it comes out of intimacy. I want to keep that in mind. You know what? Go to Jeremiah 21. I don't want to be wild.
Yes, sir.
I know they had a song back in the day, Wild Thing. I used to love that song too. Anybody remember that? Yeah. Some of y'all ain't old enough. Hey, can anybody repeat some of it? Go ahead, come on now. Don't be scared now. Don't you sing it on? Huh? You are my everything. Come on now. That was for the rebellious people. If you were rebellious, you liked that. You know what I'm saying? I was a rebel back in the days. I was a gangbanger. So I used to like, wow, dang. Yeah. Riding up down the street. That was my national anthem, right? Not the Constitution. Look at that boy. But, 2 and 21. I didn't give a verse again. 2 and 21. Yeah. Chapter 2, verse 21. Yeah. I know, I hear him over there. They gonna go home and pop it in there, because it's probably on the 8-track. I don't know if they got no iTunes or it's right on cassette. That's how old it is. Verse 21 says, "Yet I had planted thee," what? Nation of Israel. God is a little upset through the mouth of Jeremiah at the condition and the degradation and the decline of a nation, because they substituted their God. We'll go and look at that as well. So, "Yet I have planted thee a noble vine, holy" what? A faithful seed, or a right seed. He said, "What I started in you, it was right." The intention, the design. What did we say seed was? A blueprint. Potential. He said there was a potential in you that was good. It said, "Thou art turned into the" what? "Degenerate plant of a strange vine unto me." And you looked that word up, degenerate, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And what I found from it was,
did it mean something? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, fine.
Well,
got it here somewhere.
Yeah, it just basically talks about a decline. It talks about a continual deterioration. So that word, when you talk about degenerate, it's not something that happened overnight. I mean, a one-time incident. It's a deterioration. You know what I'm saying? So it's a weathering away. It's a pining away. You know what I'm saying?
So it slowly loses. You know, the place where it started is just like it's a fading glory. You know, it started at one place, but yet it's losing everything that it was.
Yeah, I believe that. I don't believe. I believe ministries have the concept of doing right. I don't think every minister, I don't care how they broke off from a previous church or denomination, or how they dawned on them one day and said, a light bulb came on and said, "I'm going to start a ministry." I don't believe that necessarily ministries start off like that. I don't believe they take it upon themselves and desire to start a church with the intent of bringing bodily harm against the body.
Yes, sir.
You know, it says in Malachi, we use it because we think about money, so don't y'all shut me down. Malachi 3, it says, "Will a man rob God? And I know it says in tithes and offering, but I guarantee you that the tithes and offering is not just money. Because the tithe is first fruit. And I believe that if I were to connect that with this story, this thought in 21st verse of chapter 2, I would think that that tithe is the right seed. And you know what I'm saying? And I think that right seed is Jesus. And I believe that when we don't conform to that seed or conform to him, we rob God.
Yes, sir. Could you tie that into also Cain?
Yeah.
When he said if you don't do well, sin lies at the door.
Sin lies at the door. So we must know as a people, we got to say, I don't want to degenerate. I don't want to decline. I don't want to have to go back to the weak and regularly things. I don't want to have compromise, because compromise is a sign of degeneration. Yeah. And it's, and compromise, because sometimes compromise is because of appetite, but for many folks, compromise is because of the opposition and the pressure and the wear and tear. You'll compromise easy. Not just because you want to do it. Many times the circumstances will place us in a point where we'll compromise. Because of the growth pains. They're birth pains, brother, on the inside of us. Each and every one of us have our own individual birth pains.
But even when you talk about staying in a place too long, you know what I'm saying? Because when you get to a place in your life, when you stay places that you aren't supposed to be, when you stay there too long, what it does is it causes more problems for you as far as you going forward. Because now that's the reason why you stand there is because you're compromising.
Yep, and you're comfortable. And then before you know, because we're creatures of habit, then our surroundings take on our nature. And then how many folks want to move every year? You want to find a place that you can at least camp at for a period of time, instead of pack and go. But in the kingdom, if we're Abraham's seed, when you look at Abraham, you will see that Abraham had two things in constant, only two things all the time. It was his tent and his altar. When you look at him, he always had altars and tents. Altars and tents, which speaks to us as well. Tent means dwelling. So we always got to go from glory to glory, from faith to faith, from strength to strength. Because we was a Baptist for 5 years, we shouldn't die a Baptist. Because you were a Catholic and your mama them and your mama's them and your mama's them was Catholic, don't mean you have to die Catholic. If God is calling you into things greater, every generation has a signature voice, a signature moment. And those wild vines come in to silence that desire on the inside of you. You get what I'm saying? So we got to constantly be moving. We're pilgrims. We're strangers. We're moving forward in the things of God. We have a city that has foundations. The builder and maker is somebody.
God.
Oh, okay. Wild vines is somebody. What you building? And you can tell everybody what you building. Oh, I'm over here. I'm taking the city. I'm taking the nation. I got a name for myself. I can prophesy. I can cast out devils. I can lay hands on the sick. I can do many wonderful works. But I never knew you. You're a wild vine. Just because you're active don't mean you're effective.
Yes, sir. According to the scripture.